All right. I think this thing's working now. Testing, testing. Can y'all hear me? Not entirely certain where I would go to find that out anyway. But yeah, I think I'm actually live. And of course, um, my face is being covered up by the um, watermark. That's what I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and grab my face and move me to the other side of the screen. See if that works better. Boom. Let's just do it this way. Got a lot going on, so I do apologize. We have audio, video, and everything. Excellent. First off, gonna drink some of my delicious tea. It's a chocolate caffeinated tea, so it's gonna be delicious. Um, so this is my first time streaming with this new setup. Uh, so I don't know if you can see everything a-okay or not. I'm kind of just hoping and guessing at this point. So if there's anything that isn't easily visible or if something's in the way, I know I've got my watermark down here in the corner by where my mouse pointer is right now. So I don't know if that's actually in the way or not. I've got my chat window showing up so you can see, but it doesn't have the transparent background. So I'm still figuring things out. Um, I apologize if the audio is not the best because I'm currently using my Apple EarPods instead of my better studio microphone because I haven't unpacked it and set it up yet. But I need to just start doing things, and so that's what we're doing. We're doing stuff. The watermark is actually tiny for streamers, so it's never in the way. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so today is going to be a short stream. Um, I'm only going to be going for an hour, maybe less. But I'm just going to be doing my game design document because they are actually kind of important. And by kind of, I mean very, even if you are an indie dev like myself. I definitely do not consider myself to be a solo developer because I don't make my own art assets. I don't score my own music. As you can see, I'm using Godot. So I'm not even, rolling my own game engine. So I'm definitely not a solo developer. I'm using stuff made by a lot of other more talented people in their specific niches. So we'll just get that out of the way. The term solo developer is overused and, in my opinion, used poorly. Um, but I'm going to be working on almost want to say a cozy game. It's definitely a more relaxed, casual game. It's going to be a 2D game, top-down, um, tactics-like game where it's called the Wizard's Tower right now. You play a character who is the wizard's apprentice, who's basically sent to clean out the basement. And when you're cleaning out a wizard's basement, what happens? Well, you run into magical creatures and experiments and magical mishaps and giant rats and all that fun stuff. So it's not high action. It's not, a Twitch response game. It's turn-based, so it's going to take a little, it's going to be able to give you time to do what you need to do. Very simple game mechanics and everything. And because I haven't done much in the way of actual complex games before, it's going to be simple just because I don't currently have the skill set to make a more complex and Final Fantasy adjacent type of game, which is perfectly fine because I don't need to be making those right now. But so so what we're going to be doing is just kind of like I said, making the game design document. Um, so this actually is the artwork that I'm using. Krishna is an amazing, talented pixel artists, and it's 8x8. It's called Mini Fantasy. You can find them on Itch. I will attempt to do a link in the doobly-doo below, but it's right here, krishnapalacio.itch.io. I'll come back to this one in a second, but I backed them on Patreon last year when I started working on games, and once I saw this, I kind of fell in love with this kind of basic idea. As you can see here along the side, these images over here, that it's just gives you small, uh, not a lot of room for stuff, but it's kind of a unique tile set, I want to say. And so I'm going to be using this for most of the tiles, but there's also the Wizards Academy tile set that Krishna has also made, that I'll just be using for additional things. Um, like we've got tables, cauldron, there's blackboards here on the wall, um, some candles, other lights, you know, spell circles, and all this stuff. So actually, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this and throw it in the chat, and I'll put it in the description also. Um, this sounds very fun, very relaxing to boot. Are you sure you don't want to make it an MMO with Final Fantasy 4 graphics? Not at this point, Coffee Crow, no. Maybe in a year or two when I get to the point where I am more comfortable with multiplayer games, then perhaps I'll do some MMO Final Fantasy 4 style graphics. But so the basic idea is most of it is going to be using these smaller rooms. So like you're gonna have your character and a handful of monsters to defeat. It's not going to be super large maps. We're not talking Legend of Zelda here. Um, Actually, Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo would probably be a similar size map, but with it being a magical wizard tower, you can have something that's this big as well as this small, and just all these different things in between. Because, like the TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside. So now that I've talked for 8 minutes, let's actually start getting to document designing. So I have my two main touch points. These are the things that are my guiding principles whenever I have a design decision and I'm not sure what route to take. I'm going to be coming back to these two touch points to make sure that I am keeping with the simplicity and my version of fun. I guess I should have mentioned that earlier, is that I'm designing a game that I want to play, and I'm going to be putting it out there for other people. And if they like it, great. If not, well, then obviously it's not for them. I'm not going to be chasing after the latest and greatest mobile clicker game, or whatever is idle game, whatever is very popular right now. No, I'm going to make the games that I want to play. So my number one touch point is design a board game. Very simple, I think it's easy to understand, but what I mean by that, and I'm using Markdown here, so the Godot editor doesn't actually have support for Markdown. It's just a basic text editor, but when you open it in something that does support Markdown, you'll see that this will become a big header, this will become a smaller header, this will become a numbered list, this will become an unordered list. So what this means is, and I totally just derailed my train of thought. Anyway, design a board game. This means that easy to understand rules, no hidden mechanics and throw away those complex formulae. Come on, there you go. I think that's plural for formula. So what all does this mean? Well, easy to understand rules. Think of a board game that you would get at your local store. Like if you're in the US, you might run across Target, Walmart, depending on the area you're in, you might have Meijer. Just a general purpose store that has, the toy section with games that are not very niche specific. People can pick up a deck of Uno cards, read the rules, and know how to play. So it's not something that should be a specialty. If it were a board game, it wouldn't be found in a specialty store just for people who like really crunchy, in-depth games. Like you said in the beginning, this is going to be a casual game. Um, the hope is that you can do an entire run from beginning to end in an hour or less. Of course, being turn-based, if you want to take 15 minutes to decide on what you want to do, then that's up to you. But I don't know if you can hear that, but half a block in that direction is a fire station. So occasionally we get the fire trucks and their sirens going. But anyway, so easy to understand rules. You should be able to read through it once and not have to worry about how did that work again? And with it being designed as a board game, there are no hidden mechanics. So there's not going to be, an accuracy check behind the scenes that the computer does, but um, doesn't tell you how that number was achieved, whether success or fail. There's no random encounters. You're walking through the grass and all of a sudden you come across monsters, but there was nothing there. Um, you know, and with it being a more tactics like game, you're just gonna spawn into the encounter, so you don't have to worry about random encounters. But that's what I mean by no hidden mechanics. Anything that happens, you know exactly why it's doing it and what the potential outcome is. Another example of no hidden mechanics is the AI for the enemy. You should be able to just click on the enemy and it'll say this type of enemy does this kind of thing. It might not tell you exactly what they're going to do, but if there's a giant rat, you click on the rat, it says, you know, the rat will run up to you and bite you. So if they're not close enough to bite you, well, on their turn they're going to run up to you first. And then if they're next to you, then they will bite you. That kind of thing. Um, Similar to how many roguelikes have what's what I'm looking for, the enemies, the actions that they're planning on doing. You'll see some sort of uh, icon or whatever to let you know what they're planning on doing. Well, very similar, but with it being designed as a board game, I guess I should clarify as a single player board game. So, as the only person playing, if this were a board game on my dining room table, I would know exactly what the monsters are doing because on the monster card it says if the rat is not next to the player, the rat will move as fast as possible to get next to the player. If it's next to the player, it will bite, and here's rules for that. So nothing is hidden, nothing is questionable. If something happens as a player, you should know exactly what happened and why. And then the throwaway complex formulae. We're not going to be doing, like I said, not going to be doing a lot of complex calculations under the hood. It's a board game. We're using six-sided dice. That's the way the game works. Um, you have a dice pool between 1 and 5 dice. You roll your dice. 5 or 6 is good. Anything else is not good. Um, 5 or 6 is a success. For every success, you do the thing. If you're trying to shoot someone with a bow and you get 3 successes, congratulations, that's 3 damage. You're trying to defend, you get 3 successes, great. You now have a defensive 3. That kind of thing. Sounds a bit reminiscent to Slay the Spire, only in that sense of you get to see what the enemies are going to do on their turn, so you can strategize. Yeah, very similar to Slay the Spire and a lot of other roguelikes, turn-based card game roguelikes. They will show the intent of the enemy, but in my game, instead of showing you what that intent is, you can just click on the unit and it'll say, "Oh, this is what this monster does." So the intent will not be immediately obvious, but again, with it being turn-based, if you're not sure what they're going to do, just click on them and it'll say, "This is what the monster does." You know, the necromancer, when it has no uh, minions, it will summon some skeletons or zombies. Otherwise, if it's close enough, it will shoot you with black magic. Something pretty simple, that will spell out um, exactly what it's going to do. A couple years ago, Fantasy Flight Games put out a Warhammer Quest card game, which had keywords on each of the monsters that each keyword did something specific, and on the monster's turn, you went through the keywords in order, and that's what the monster did. So going back to giant rats, it had the keyword engage and inflict. The engage keyword is a universal keyword that all monsters can have. That means if it's not close enough to bite you, it will get close to you. It will engage you in melee combat. So like the archers did not use the engage keyword, they actually had the disengage keyword, which means if they're engaged with you, they run away. Then inflict just means it does damage to you. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, that we'll have a list of keywords, and so it will go in order doing these things. So like engage, if not next to the player, it will move next to the player. Attack, it will attack. Defend, it will defend. Um, some more aggressive monsters might be engage, attack, attack. More defensive monster might be defense, attack, disengage. So that way there would be just a small number of keywords that will pretty much be the decision tree for that enemy. And so it's going to be hopefully easy enough to understand. And again, this is just kind of the brainstorming phase. So we'll get there eventually. When the rubber meets the road, we'll see how it works out in play. But these are kind of my guiding principles, if you will. All right. And so moving on to touch point number 3, my mom will enjoy and understand this game. So my mom is going to be 70 next year. She likes playing simple games. She won't sit down and play Axis and Allies with me. She saw the size of the board and said, "Nope, I'm not playing that." But she enjoys playing Uno. She actually didn't mind playing Settlers of Catan. It was not the rules weren't too complex for her, but it was too long for her to sit still and play a game. And anyone who's played Settlers of Catan know that, yeah, those games can get very long. So the first 2 games that I made, I should probably throw a link to my itch in the description as well. The first one I made was a Galaga style top-down infinite shooter. I made that just to kind of figure out how Godot worked and start very simple. And it was just something that I threw together just to learn how to make a game, and my mom loved it. She was like, "Oh, this is a lot of fun. This is something that I used to play." Um, and so I want to make sure that this is a game that my mom will understand and enjoy. And that's not saying that she's dumb or that she has a lack of attention. It's just that she likes easy casual games. And so I want to make sure that this is an easy casual game for her to play. Later on, when I get to more complex and in-depth games, then this will no longer be a touch point of that game, because not every game I'm going to make is going to be something that she will enjoy playing, and she knows that. But just want to make sure that at this point, whenever I'm like, okay, I have this new mechanic, can I explain this in a way that my mom will understand in a sentence or two. If not, it's too complex for this game. I'll make a note, put it in the archive, and come back to it at a later point. Um, yeah, in the last game that I made, I was coming up with all these different ideas, and I'm talking with my wife, and I'm like, hey, I thought of this mechanic. Doesn't that sound awesome? She's like, your mom's not going to understand that. I barely understand that. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty complex. Hardcore gamers would love it, but for a casual game, not so much. And also, the harder, more complex things in game are harder and more complex to code. And so start simple, start with something that is easy to do, and then later on add complexity as needed. My plan is to later on make more games. This isn't going to be a one and done kind of thing. I plan on using this game as a learning experience for the things that I will need for my next game, which will teach me things that I need to know for the game after that and the game after that. And so each one is building upon itself until I get to the point where I can make that uh, MMO with Final Fantasy IV graphics. Oh, Crow said something else from a programming standpoint that sounds super fun and very scalable. Yes, I'm assuming you're talking about the keywords. Yes, super fun and very scalable. That's the hope. um, so now that we have main touch points, uh, basic game mechanics. So this list is the where all of the game mechanics start from. You know, everything will stem from here and start with this as the basic seed from which all others will grow. So D6 dice pool 1, 2, 5 dice. Um, 5 through 6 is a hit slash success. I don't really like using the term success because if I get two successes on my attack roll, and so I deal 2 damage, but the enemy has a defensive 3, I do no damage, so is that really a success? Which is why I like hits, because hits can be defended against. 1 through 4 is a miss. And I'm putting these in quotes because maybe I should use something else for like key terms, but they're placeholders until I come up with something better. Um, let's see. Each character has 3 action points per turn. Each action costs 1 or 2 question mark action points. So for these two, uh, on the beginning of your turn, your character gets 3 action points. To begin with, at the very beginning of the game, you have 3 actions. You have move, attack, and defend. So at the very beginning, you can do all of your actions. You don't have to worry about choosing other, you know, you won't have to worry about making choices of which actions you want to do. But as your character progresses and you get more stuff, the items you get will give you more actions. So like if you have you know, just using common naming terminology, if you have a rare Warhammer, it will give you the ground pound attack, which allows you to, you know, attack all enemies within, 2 squares and has a chance of knocking them down or something. So you could do that and use your base attack and defend, or so then you would have 4 different actions, but only 3 action points. So I guess I should throw that in as gear, give, or we start with 3 actions, attack, defend, move. Oops, one too many indents there. Gear gives access to more actions. To more slash better. No, they just give access to more actions. So all actions right now going to cost one action point. I'm debating whether or not I'm going to have some actions cost 2 points, or if it's just a flat one per action. And then things that are, you know, better or upgraded versions might be a support action that costs one action point that says on your next, like a super dodge, on your next defend action, gain this ability. Or if it's just going to be a 2 action point action by itself. I haven't decided that yet. Still working on it. That's why the two is in question, has a question mark next to it. But like if you have an offhand dagger equipped, you get an offhand attack option. And also should probably clarify that each action can be done once per turn. So if you have 3 action points, you cannot attack unless you somehow manage to have 3 different attack actions. So that's the basic game mechanics. You have 1 to 5 dice, you roll them. If you get a 5 or 6, it's a hit, and those do things. Oh, I almost forgot to mention 2 or more 6s is a critical. And critical is going to be like the kicker for special abilities that don't always proc. So, for example, if you are using a fire attack, you have a wand of firebolt. On a critical hit, you set the target on fire, which is a status effect. And however that actually works in game, it will apply that effect to the target you hit. If you have a really awesome defensive item, a critical on a defense roll might give you higher defense or allow the defense to last longer, or might even cause the enemy to re-roll certain dice on their attack. Should also do that. Most modifiers are re-rolls of dice. So, for example, if you have an accurate attack, you can reroll misses. If you have critical defense, your opponent might have to reroll hits. Or maybe something that's not as good as reroll all misses, it's only reroll on 1s or 2. And that idea actually came to me based on something that we're going to get to in a minute. So we are now going to move on to basic character stats. Each character has 3 stats. Anybody who knows much about things will know that our 3 stats are strength, speed, and spirit. So strength governs melee attacks, speed governs ranged attacks and defense, spirit governs magic. So if you try to stab someone with a sword, that's a strength check. You try to shoot someone with a bow, that's a speed check. You try to cast magic missile, that's a spirit check. And so all Stats start at 1. Gear gives bonuses to specific stats. So you start off with a basic rusty sword. Congratulations, you have a strength of 1. You pick up an improved sword. It's a +1 sword. Guess what? You get a +1 to your strength. So you're now rolling 2 dice for all strength related things. Speaking of gear, gear comes in the following flavors: weapon, armor, offhand, and trinket 1, trinket 2. So your weapon, armor, and offhand. So your weapon and armor are mainly the ones that give you bonuses to stats. So if you have, a sword, it gives you a +1 or 2 or 3 or whatever to strength. You equip leather armor. Well, that's more of a speed kind of thing, so it'll give you a bonus to speed. But each of these categories will have options for each category. So melee weapons give bonuses to strength. Ranged weapons and some melee weapons will give a bonus to speed. For example, the Assassin's Dagger will give you a bonus to speed, but it's still a strength check, but it has the ability that always allows you to reroll misses. And on a crit, it'll cause like a bleeding effect or something. Magic wands, magic staves, magic rods, magic books, whatever, those are all magical weapons. They give you a bonus to spirit. For armor, it's your traditional leather, cloth, and mail. So mail armor gives you strength bonus, cloth armor gives you spirit bonus, leather armor gives you speed bonus, and will each provide some sort of passive benefit on crits to defenses. This is turning out to already be a solid design doc with some great explanations. Excellent. I am glad you think so, because I like to over-explain sometimes, and sometimes I think I'm explaining too much, so I'll stop, in which case causes me to under-explain. It's a vicious cycle. So those are your 2 main pieces of gear that give you bonuses. And then some of them will give you additional actions. For example, if you have I don't really know. Maybe those won't give you additional actions. I don't know. But like your offhand item will give you an additional action. Like I said earlier, if you have that offhand dagger, it'll allow you to make an additional melee attack. Or if you have like a magic book, it will give you over-explain is what we call streamer and designer speak. This is a good quality to have. Excellent. So glad to hear that I'm doing it right. So like a magic book for your offhand might give you an additional defensive spell or something. That's going to give you an additional action. So that's how you get your 4th action. And then your trinkets, some will give you additional actions. Some will give you stat bonuses. Some will add effects to your existing items. So those are going to be the miscellaneous catch-all grab bag. And right now, I'm thinking for trinkets, I'm going to go with rings and necklaces for the 2 types of trinket. Actually, let's just go ahead and do this. So in my documents, mini fantasy, I have lots and lots and lots. So let's look at crafting and professions. Potions, here we go. Trinkets. So as far as trinkets go, yes, these are all 8x8, so we have to zoom in a lot. But I've got rings, I've got earrings, I've got necklaces. And these are all different, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of each. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors. So that's 25 total options for just rings, earrings, and necklaces. let's go ahead and pull up some of these other. I sometimes I just stare at the icons that Krishna makes because these are just freaking beautiful. I love it. But so we have cloth armor, leather armor, metal armor. If I wanted to later on, look, I have hats, I have boots, I have small wooden shields, I have bucklers, I have tower shields, I have metal shields. There's just so many options of things that I can throw in later on. It's just ridiculous. And right now I'm just using this row of cloth, wood, or I'm sorry, cloth. Actually, no, I think this is cloth, wood, and metal, leathers, and the crafting and professions 2 traps. Yeah, so here's leather. Zoom, 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 zoom. So again, hoods, armor, boots. So needless to say, I have so much stuff that I can use available to me. Um, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is a really good number. I mean, if I wanted to, I could go super simple and just go with 3, but I like having trinkets for just extra stuff. You Available gear. Bum. So the way I'm thinking is that because all stats start at 1, weapons and armor. Whoops. Weapons and armor give you bonus to stats. Haven't figured out the exact uh, distribution, but there should be a total of 5 uh, points that you can get. So I'm probably thinking that weapons and armor will give up to +2 each, and then like either an offhand or a trinket item could give a +1 that will give us the 5. And of course, there will be some multi-stat options. So like a flaming sword would give could give a +2 to strength and a +1 to spirit. The aforementioned assassin's dagger could give +2 to speed and a +1 to strength. Um, because again, even so, all melee attacks are strength. Even if it's a dagger, it's still a strength attack. But a lot of the stuff, a lot of the kickers will be speed related, or maybe not. I don't know because now that I say it, the critical effect requires 2 or more 6s, so that's something I'll have to think about later. Um, Man, you have so many assets. I think you need to build a library of assets, but I'm the fool who wants to draw. Yes, Coffee Crow, you are the fool who wants to draw. Um, this is why I just pay other people to do it. Uh, Going back to, I mean, if we just look at all of this stuff, the Forest Dwellers is brand new. So we got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 times 3 because I can't math. So we've got 61 different sets, and 3 of which are free: the creatures, the Forgotten Plains, and the dungeon. So like if you want to do a Legend of Zelda kind of thing, you've got your outside world, you've got your dungeon world, and I mean just look at all of these creatures. Just look at all of this. Your base humanoids, bats, wolves, skeletons, trolls, zombies, slimes. It's ridiculous. And of course, he has the complete bundle collection, which gives you everything. And it's only, I think it's, yeah, $49.90. Regularly $319. You're saving 84%. This is what I spent my birthday money on last year. My birthday is next month, so it's been 11 months since I spent money on it, and it has been just such well spent. I mean, like, here's the weapons. Just look at that. We got a slingshot, a bow, axe, swords, spears, flails, whips. Let's see. So we've got dagger, sword, axe, spear, pitchfork, whip, flail, longsword, war axe, bow, slingshot, buckler, wooden shield, iron shield, plus 7 special charge attack animations for a bunch of things. So, needless to say, this is where, the decision of what weapons to include in the game are going to be from this asset pack. So, yeah, if you're looking at fun, high quality, good price art assets, Krishna is where you want to look. I have a hard stop at 11:30 because my wife will be home and I need to make lunch before then. So we've got 20 minutes to go. So I'm just going to kind of finish off here. Um, I don't know if this belongs in, this actually goes in basic game mechanics. Um, so in order to keep certain stats relevant for everybody, at the beginning of your turn, roll speed for movement. Highest die is what your move speed is for that turn. This is where my idea of reroll ones and twos came from, because I didn't want to just have a flat, this monster moves this many squares, this monster can move this many squares, the player can move this many squares. I wanted to try to keep all of the stats relevant in some way, shape, or form. And so the idea I came up with, I actually stole this from Sentinels of the Multiverse board game, where at the beginning of your turn, you roll so many dice, and the highest is your movement for that turn. But there were a lot of other um, small rules regarding that, which violates my two main touch points. Some characters rolled 3 and chose the highest. Some people rolled 4 and chose the lowest. Some rolled 3 and you chose the middle value. It's just a lot more complex than I wanted to do. So your move speed is between 1 and 5, or it's between 1 and 6. If you're, if you are a fast creature, like for example, a wolf would have the swift keyword, which means when rolling for movement, reroll ones and twos. Whereas things like a slime would have the slow keyword, reroll fives and sixes. So these allow you to shift the expected outcome without changing the range of outcomes nor modifying the dice pool size. So at the beginning, the character that you start with has a speed of 1. So your movement each round is very much up to chance. So you're still going to want to equip something that gives you a +1 or total +2 to your move, or maybe you find a swift trinket, which gives you the swift keyword. So you're rerolling ones and twos. You get hit with an ice effect, and all of a sudden you have the slow keyword. So you're rerolling fives and sixes. That kind of thing. So it allows for a little bit more nuance in effects and dice. So especially if you're a melee character, you're going to want to pump up your speed somehow, just to make sure you can make it to your target. And speaking of keeping everything relevant, a few things. Health is 2x strength plus speed plus spirit. So my starting point for the health that any character has is double your strength plus your speed plus your spirit. So having a high strength makes you tougher. So each point of strength is worth more, because again, the idea being that a melee character is going to take more hits getting into melee combat because their speed's not going to be that high, and they're not going to have as many dice for defense. Um, so most armor will provide a bonus to speed, regardless of anything else, because that's the defense stat. You know, I hate it when it tries to drag. So even if you're a fully melee person and you have like some mega ultra uh, plate armor, that gives you +2 strength, but also +2 speed, it makes it better or more likely for you to defend. Or maybe an offhand item could be a buckler or a shield of some sort that gives you +1 to speed. Might even just, or maybe just it gives you a, on a successful defend, you gain an additional point of defense or something. I don't know, but that's kind of the things I'm thinking of. But regardless, strength is worth more than anything else. So if you somehow manage to max out all of your stats, you have a 5 in everything, you'll have 20 health. I think that's very high, especially if you are, if at maximum you're rolling 5 dice, it's going to take a while to get through all of those health points. Actually, let me see here. I did some math the other day. Let's see if I can find game mechanics. Game math. Here we go. Okay. So this is from the codex.io website. I'm kind of using this as a anyway, you can look into it if you're interested. So I did some math the other day, and this here is the basic math for the chance of getting a crit based on your dice pool size, the percentage chance if you're re-rolling misses, if you're re-rolling successes. So, for example, basic math, if you have 2 dice in your pool, you only have a 2.78% chance of getting a crit. Once you get up to 5 dice, you have almost a 20% chance. And then these columns over here is the chance of getting, of getting 1 or more hits, 2 or more hits, 3 or more hits. This crit column here is, I guess I should say, this column is the percent of getting a crit, the number of hits, the chance of getting everything, dice pool size here along the left. Top one is basic with no rerolls. Then if you're rerolling misses and rerolling hits. So if you have, 2 dice and you're rerolling misses, you have a almost 8% chance of critting, as opposed to almost a 3% chance without rerolling misses. So I was kind of doing a little bit of math because I like math, and it keeps trying to think that I'm trying to edit it, but I'm just trying to highlight it. So I've done a little bit of math, and I know if my math is right. I kind of know what my basic chances of hitting and whatnot, but again, I'm just kind of guessing and giving myself a starting point, because the idea of having 20 health is only if you somehow manage to cheat and get 5 in all stats, but it's more likely you're going to have 5 at the end game. You'll have 5 in your main stat and 2 or 3 in your secondary and 1 or 2 in your tertiary. So assuming you have 5 in your main stat, 3 in your secondary, and 2 in your tertiary, we'll say that your main is strength. You got 5, that's 10, plus 2 is 12, or 10 plus 3 is 13, so 15. If strength is not your main stat, then you're looking at 10. So the health spread for a end game character is between 10 and 15. give or take, 9 to 15, depending on which one is your primary. But yeah, something between like 9 and 15 is the spread of health. Good starting point. I can always adjust it later, and who knows, maybe you'll have a Trinket of Vitality, which just gives you a flat +3 health. That's the only thing it does. Who knows? I don't know. But um, this is pretty much what I'm going to be going for. I guess I should say for basic game mechanics, since I've been hinting at it, but I've never actually said it out loud. Grid-based squares. So there are several different formulas you can use for distances when working on a grid. The Manhattan distance means that um, you're not counting diagonals extra. Actually, let's see. Manhattan formula. I don't want a calculator, just where's the Wikipedia? Manhattan distance. Okay. So, really? Oh, come on. There's fine. So this green line here is the Manhattan distance. It doesn't matter, or actually I guess the blue line is. Um, but it doesn't matter if that's a bad one. Maybe this one? No, they're all going from, dadgummit. I just want a simple image that shows what this means. I don't want the formula, but basically it means that if you know what, I know what to do. Read the docs. A-Star Grid 2D. Okay, so we have compute heuristics. Heuristics. Here you go. Okay, Manhattan heuristic. There you go. Oh, I guess it was the same image, but it just means that the length of the red, the blue, and the green are all the same because diagonals don't count additional anything. There's also the Chebyshev. Actually, I think this is more of what I meant. Yeah, so it's the Chebyshev, not the Manhattan. So as you can see in this image, each adjacent square is 1 distance. Everything next to that is 2 distance, then 3, then 4. As opposed to maybe it's the octile heuristic? No. Images, just fine for me. Nope, that doesn't help. But the octile heuristic, or no, the Euclidean, that's what I was thinking, that usually you see, um, yeah, here's a good explanation of everything. So Chebyshev is what I'll be using. That 1 square is 1 square regardless of the distance. The Euclidean is a lot of times what you'll see in like role-playing games and more board games that try to be a little bit more realistic. So like the square each in the cardinal north, south, east, west direction is 1. The others are, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So diagonals cost a little bit more. So, the square root of 2 is 1.414, which is a little bit more than the one that you get from the north, south, east, west. So that's this is the way that you get distances that kind of look more circular on the map when for movement, range, area, whatever. But I'm sticking with the Chebyshev, which is the easiest to A, it's easiest to calculate, and B, it goes back to easy to understand rules. One square is one square. It doesn't matter which way you're going. Does my mom know that when you go diagonal, it counts as two squares? No, that doesn't make sense to her because it is not an easy to understand rule. If I get a bunch of D&D players and throw the map at them, yeah, they'll know that diagonals count as two because or every two diagonal counts as three movement because that's how D&D used to work, at least third edition. Um, fourth edition and fifth edition. Fourth edition got rid of that. I've not played fifth, so I don't know, or it's been a very long time. But anyway, here are the different types of. So I was completely wrong with the taxicab difference. Taxicab is where diagonals count as two, cardinals count as one. As you can see in this. So one square is one square, period. When I get to more tactical games later on, will I use Euclidean? Probably. Honestly, I don't really think I'm ever going to use taxicab geometry because no. So for me, it's either going to be Chebyshev or, oh, I totally should have just clicked on that to make it bigger. So simple, one square is one square. Euclidean, I will use in other games when it's going to be more tactical and less casual. But for a casual game, one square is one square, period, done, end of discussion. So that's what I'm going to be doing for right now. Let's go ahead and add a few more spaces between here. Just adding in the trinkets that I might have eventually. So yeah, this is the 49 line game design document that I'm going to be using as my starting off point for everything. Oh, I totally forgot to mention one other specific thing. One player character, multiple monsters. I mean, I did mention that earlier in the beginning, but it is now official monsters. It is now officially in the document, and it also gives us a nice, even 50 lines. Love it. Looks like Coffee Crow is the only one in the chat right now, so I've got about 2 minutes. Hit me with any questions. And of course, there is a bit, looks like there's a 5 or 10 second lag. So yeah, I'll just keep talking until he says, no, I don't have any questions, dummy. I've been chatting this whole time. Which is obviously not how he sounds, because if any of you have actually seen his videos, they are amazing, and you should go like and subscribe if you haven't already. Speaking of which, how about you like and subscribe to my channel, please? How's the first stream feeling? You seem to be doing incredibly well. First stream's great. I've done podcasting on and off for a decade, so I know I kind of know what I'm doing, at least in the audio medium. The live part is a little new. I think I've only ever done like 2 live streams before. I was over on Twitch doing JavaScript development. But yeah, I mean, it's instead of talking to my microphone, I'm talking to a camera. Sub to back amazing dev and streamer in the making. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. So I guess at this point it is 11:30 my time, and according to YouTube, I've been live for 1 hour, 1 minute, and 43 seconds. So thank you so much for joining me, Crow. It was great having you. Anybody else who has been watching but did not speak up in chat, uh, thanks for viewing. If you're watching this after the fact, appreciate it. Use the comments down below if you have any comments, questions, whatever. Um, if you want to reach out to me about this or anything YouTube related, uh, email link should be on the YouTube page, yt@beck.dev. That's yt@13eck.dev. Yeah, until next time, I need to come up with a closer because I have not thought that